Kirby again as we launch into the 20th episode of Zoo Crew Revue, where we will be reviewing the 19th and penultimate issue of the ongoing Captain Carrot and his amazing Zoo Crew, and pair it with the classic Looney Tunes short, One Froggy Evening. Our cover is penciled and inked once again by Rick Hoberg. He's back! Frogzilla versus Captain Carrot and his amazing Zoo Crew. See, who said our scintillating supervillains never get top billing? As we are treated to an omnibus cover-worthy picture of the Zoo Crew battling Frogzilla, whom stands atop Follywood buildings, Pig Iron walloping him on the head as Fastback speeds up from the top of a building and up the monster's leg to punch him in the stomach. While Rubber Duck wraps himself around Frogzilla's arm, Yankee Poodle comes riding in on her stripes while blasting Frogzilla with her star beams. Alley Cat Tabra is trying to catch a spell while in the foe's grasp as Captain Carrot hops on high, asking, "How do you fight a 50-foot frog? With your hat. Grab it and run!" I say omni-worthy because it showcases the whole team in action, largely demonstrating their powers in all in good dynamic poses. And at the bottom of the page we have a proclamation of Animalistic Adventure by Roy Thomas and Rick Hoberg, which I do have to raise an eyebrow at because only half of that is true, and the other half seems to be House Roy, showing his bad Stan Lee habits. So all this plus a Superman 3 sweepstakes ad. And now with our pertinent data, this issue has a cover date of September 1983, on sale date June 23rd, 1983. Our story is plotted by Scott Shaw, scripted by Joey Cavalieri, penciled by Rick Hoberg, inked by Larry P. Houston, lettered by David Cody Weiss, colored by Carl Gafford, and edited by Roy Thomas. Edited by Roy Thomas does not mean created by Roy Thomas. Our issue opens with Rodney Rabbit, Felina Fur, and Timmy Joe Terrapin at the mall to do some shopping for their vacation, which we have now been waiting about 2 issues for, and I do have to say there is a feeling of when are they gonna get to the fireworks factory going on here. Timmy Joe is just amazed at all of his options. If I had a shopping mall like this back where I come from, I could throw away my Deere's Roebuck catalog. Now we all unhooked me already. I don't deserve this kind of shabby treatment. Buzz. Well, Ronnie can only bemoan how out of shape he is in his usual form for the cruise, and Timmy Joe tries to reassure him before the trio hear gunfire. Now don't take that attitude, Rodney. An ocean cruise will be just the thing to get me out of my shell. Nothing but sun and blue water and, well, shoot. Bam, bam. I didn't mean for nobody to take me literally. Felina spots the trouble as 3 crooks come running out of the arcade. All vacation plans could be shot as well. Those jokers leaving that video arcade sure don't look like the Atari Force. I am aware that Atari Force was a comic that DC published, but that's pretty much where my knowledge of it ends, and I gotta imagine even some younger readers would probably have to ask, what's an Atari? Rodney and Timmy Joe duck behind a corner to change into their superhero costumes, proclaiming, to emerge as the amazingly unabashed Captain Carrot, and the darn good in his own right, Fastback. Hoberg does draw a really nice 2-shot of my 2 favorite characters here. However, the 2 stop dead in their tracks as they see Felina easily taking out the 3 robbers by herself. And Felina has been established as a martial arts expert since the first issue, so it is nice to see that brought up once again. Felina's clobbering those coin-clutching crooks all by a lonesome. She didn't even bother to switch to her Zoo Crew ID. And here I thought times was tough for masters of cat foo. That one's for you, Ross and Jay. Captain Carrot and Fastback slink away. I thought we was gonna get us some glory, but now I feel about as welcome as a pair of X-ray specs at a poker game. Ease up, Timmy Joe. We're vacationers, remember? Get used to idle bliss. After the 2 switch back into their civilian clothes, Rodney is still powered up, practically bursting out of his shirt like if Arnold Schwarzenegger borrowed something from Rick Moranis. Your Cosmic Carrot ain't worn off yet. Ain't you taking a risk walking around as Rodney Rabbit with Captain Carrot's bulging biceps? After Felina's martial arts display, a half-clothed hare won't be much of an attraction to the crowd. But as Rodney, he never wears pants, so isn't he always half clothed? Later, reunited with everyone else back at the Z building, Captain Carrot admonishes them for overpacking and reminisces about some of their more recent, non-short adventures. And I really wish this series would stop referencing cold turkey. It was the worst issue. Pig Iron is trying to help Yankee Poodle by sitting on her suitcase to get it to close while the two bicker.
Well, Yankee Poodle's looking forward to sinking the ship. Get her to cut out the dead weight, would ya?
If we did that, Pig Iron, honey, we'd have to leave you behind entirely. The door alarm goes off, and Captain Carrot turns on the monitor to see a giant cigar-smoking crab. Unfortunately, Hoberg drew a nose and mustache on the crab that really looks the kind you would see on a pair of gag glasses. It somehow comes off as too cartoony, even for this book, and I think it's because it just looks too human. The crab introduces himself, talking to the security camera. What a beautiful building! A masterpiece! A work of art! No kidding! I'm speechless! I can barely bring myself to ask. Is it for sale? For sale? You're kidding? No, I'm buying Louis Landcrab at your service. Real and unreal estate. And in your case, definitely the latter. But I've got this thing for alphabetic architecture. Ever since I met my main squeeze in a singles bar shaped like an O. That is a very inappropriate joke for this book, but I am here for it. However, halfway through, Captain Carrot presses a button on the dashboard that produces a mechanical suction cup that picks Louis Landcrab up, turns him around, and then gives him the literal boot. That is not too cartoony for this series. Captain Carrot just scoffs as he walks away from the monitor. I know you'd expect better reception from someone with rabbit ears, but it's bad enough we live in a giant snore sound effect. I don't need to be reminded. The Zoo Crew arrive at the Los Antelopes Harbor to get on the Lust boat, with Pig Iron struggling to carry all of their luggage, and are greeted by Captain Dunbar Dodo from issue 3 of the series. Again, I went back to listen to that episode to remind myself of what voice I did for Dunbar, just so I could have a little continuity. And while most of the regular voices were starting to settle in, Pig Iron was still pretty far off, and Fastback was a lot more mellow. Well, welcome, Bird. Glad to see you and Pig Iron took advantage of the free passes I sent you. But I thought you said the rest of the Zoo Crew would be coming. Hope you don't mind, Dunbar, but since they are busy, we brought along some of our distant cousins. So clearly it must be popularly known that superhero Pig Iron is a friend of Bird Rentals. That is all well and good, and I do like the attempt at trying to maintain the other secret identities. Well, any cousin of yours is a cousin of, never mind. Just climb aboard and tell the crew your stay's all on Captain Dunbar Dodo. As the cruise begins, Rodney is painting on an easel, while Bird is surrounded by a bunch of bikini-clad fans, and Pig Iron has destroyed a lounge chair while trying to sit down. This cruise was a terrific idea. It'll give me a swell chance to get close to some really exotic scenery. You and me both, pal.
Must be some kind of trick or something to these folding chairs. Got a feeling this one's gonna stay folded.
That evening, Hoberg gives an amazing establishing shot of the cruise ship, one that you could put in any comic and it would not look out of place. Felina thanks Dunbar Dodo for letting them sit at the captain's table, but wonders what has him upset. Dunbar answers that seeing Bird and Pig Iron reminds him of the adventures in issue 3, and how after Frogzilla was changed back into J. Fenimore Frog, he hired him to work on the Lust boat, only for one night for him to be swept overboard in the middle of a storm. Gotta say, that was a really easy bit of exposition to swallow. Didn't take up too much real estate. Out of nowhere, the ship is rocked, causing everyone to fall out of their chairs and the furniture to flip over. Covered in food, Rodney and Pig Iron find themselves on the floor. The ship lurched suddenly. Everybody okay?
Peachy! Dodo said the ship was so spotless you could eat off the floor, but he didn't have to prove it.
Picking themselves up, Rodney tells them it's time for them to change into their superhero IDs, which Pig Iron remarks as we get a good team shot.
You wouldn't have to if you stayed in them all the time, like me. Face it, someday this group's gonna be called Pig Iron and his amazing Zoo Crew. Now that's a property with legs.
And a big mouth, too. Let's get to work already. Really starting to crack the fourth wall on that bit, but not too bad, even if Pig Iron is looking right at the reader. Keep that in mind for later. I wouldn't have minded if the ship had completely capsized and this issue turned into the Porpoise Adventure. The Zoo Crew go topside and discover that the cruise ship has a gigantic hole flooded with water. Hoberg again does some outstanding rubber duck action as the flexible fowl balloons up to plug the hole while Alley Cat Tabra starts to magic up a spell for a more long-term solution. You said it, Alley Cat Tabra. There's water everywhere. The perfect environment for a rubber duck. In what might be Alley Cat Tabra's greatest show of magical prowess yet, lifting the entire cruise ship out of the ocean, allowing the water to drain out. I did it! My prestidigitation made some real levitation and saved the Lust Boat from becoming the first singles cruise submarine. She tells the rest of the team to act fast as she can only hold it for so long, as Rubber Duck stretches out to save 2 overthrown passengers. We'll have on our hands the biggest disaster since Dead Cat books. I think that's just a reference to the Dead Sea Scrolls? Or is this just another reference that's just totally gone over my head? Not really sure. Up on deck, Fastback speeds around to gather all of the deck chairs for Pig Iron to flatten and give to Captain Carrot and Yankee Poodle to patch the hole.
Here you go! Flatten Muhammad Ali's last opponent. Here's hoping that root-chomping rabbit can catch it once I throw it over the side.
It's going great guns, gang! Yankee Poodle and I will have the hull repaired in no time. And the Lust Boat will be in... wait for it... ship shape! That is a solid can't help myself pun. And Alley Cat Tabra then slowly lowers the ship back down. At last, I can set the ship safely down. I was going to ask this story's plotter when I could let it go, but I don't think we're equipped for a ship-to-shore communication. I hate the absolute fourth wall break here. It pulls me right out of the story. The characters themselves should not flat out know they are in a comic book. I am fine with the narrator doing it because, again, omniscient narrator. This is even taking into account all of the times, even in this issue, where the series has leaned on the fourth wall and maybe even cracked it, but it has never broken it. And doing it in issue 19 out of 20 is a bad call. This to me is just as egregious if Superman were to thank Roger Stern or Louise Simonson. The Lust Boat is now able to stay afloat as Captain Carrot fills Dunbar Dodo in on how they saved the ship while Frogzilla's head begins to bob out of the ocean. Well, the hull kind of looks like a patchwork quilt, but the Lust Boat is on the mend. Too bad we had to smash up all the deck chairs to do it. And the ping pong tables. And the gym equipment. And the video games. Especially the video games. As Dunbar thanks the Zoo Crew, Captain Carrot thinks to himself of how he noticed the giant webbed fingerprints on the hull. Once again, Zoo Crew, I am in your debt. I just wish I could figure out how that huge hole got there. We're miles away from a reef or anything that could do that much damage. Afraid that'll have to remain a mystery, Captain. 'Cause if I tell you that I found a set of giant webbed fingerprints on that ripped up hull plating, you could go out of your tiny mind. With everything of entertainment gone, the Lust Boat is forced to return to port. Back in port, the guests get off the boat, Pig Iron relieved that he won't have to lug anyone's souvenirs back as well. And while Dunbar is relieved that the ship got back, he feels that everyone's troubles aren't over yet. While a half mile away, Louis Landcrab is still stewing about getting kicked away from the Z building before spotting a literally washed up J. Fenimore Frog on the beach. Feh! Who wants a building shaped like a Z anyway? From the back, it looks like an S with a shave and a haircut anyway. But the land, on that I can make a fortune. If I could only get those costume cloths to sell, Hey! What's this? A drowning frog? I wonder how much he'll pay me to save him. Louis makes it to J. Fenimore Frog's side as he slowly stirs, recounting what happened to him and how he once again became Frogzilla.
Yelled, "Frog overboard! Frog overboard!" But nobody heard. After the lifeboat
fell free from the ship. The trade winds wafted me to a tropical paradise, the Bikini Atoll. The natives found me, nursed me back to health with the medicinal potions of their own concoction. But their primitive medicine reacted with chemicals left in my body from my first transformation until once again I became Frogzilla.
Thankfully, all of the Bikini Atoll natives are just random animals, and we're not getting a Harry Carl Barks native situation, though J. Former Frog definitely makes a pass at one of the lovely native women. Frog continues, saying that after becoming Frogzilla again, the natives treated him like a god as he regained his strength, either to take revenge on the Zoo Crew and Dunbar Dodo. Now, how he knew they were all on the cruise ship again? That's more lucky happenstance. However, the attack took more out of him than it appeared, and he reverted back to his natural form. Louis Landcrab, having found a mutual foe of the Zoo Crew, whispers into his ear, "Well, I've got a little plan that'll make your revenge and make us millionaires with a capital dollar sign." It is a literal dollar sign in the speech balloon. This is one joke that does work better written down than me speaking it aloud. I don't think that the flashback really required 2 pages, and easily could have been cut down to 1, especially because a lot of what is shown on page 14 is pretty obvious that any reader could have inferred. Louis Landcrab has taken J. Fenimore Frog to recuperate back at his pretty swanky house, all things considered.
All right, already. You're killing me with kindness. I couldn't take another pineapple juice frappe.
This one's papaya! Drink it! You've got to build up your strength! After Louis leaves his house, J. Fenimore, tired of the health food, sneaks a bottle of Koala Cola, instantly transferring him back into Frogzilla and destroying the house. And, of course, as soon as Louis returns, J. Fenimore threatens Louis, telling him he knows that he only rescued him to get to Frogzilla. Louis pleads, "Trust me, boy! Trust me! I've got your best interests at heart! If my foolproof plan works, we'll make quadroscintillions! And if not, we'll get you a job advertising frozen vegetables!" Back at the Z building, or N building as our dozing narrator tells us, the Zoo Crew is unpacking from their cut-short vacation. Captain Carrot and Alley Cat Tabra grumbling, "Some vacation? We barely vacated! I mean, tell me, did we at least make it beyond the 3-mile smog limit?" "You said it. Here in Los Antelopes, I couldn't catch some rays if I had 10-foot talons." Fastback, trying to look on the bright side of things, gazes out the window, only to see Frogzilla tearing up Los Antelopes. "Did they move the Statue of Liberty to L.A. and make it ugly? 'Cause if they didn't, we got ourselves a problem."
I hope the jerks in this building wanted a sun deck, 'cause they got one without a raise in the rent. Raise the ceilings as far as what's that?
Captain Carrot and his amazing Zoo Crew quickly leap into action. "Here we go, team! Zoo Crew to the rescue!" Sure sounds a lot snappier than Avengerbals Assemble. I actually don't think it's that bad of a battle cry. It's got a real nice rhyme to it. Captain Carrot lands the first blow on Frogzilla, knocking him down into a construction site. "Frogzilla? I had a feeling we'd come across you sooner or later, though I figured on later since it's kinda early in our run for a recurring villain." Here's the other fourth wall break joke I hate. 1, it's a fourth wall break for reasons I already talked about, and 2, even more importantly, it doesn't make any sense. The Zoo Crew have already fought Armadillo, Digger O'Doom, and Dr. Hoot twice already, so Frogzilla is far from their first recurrent adversary. As Frogzilla gets his footing, he swats the Zoo Cruiser, and despite Rubber Duck's best efforts, it starts to spin out of control, causing Pig Iron to fall out and land right on top of Frogzilla's head. Frogzilla grabs a Return of the Medfly billboard to try and swat Pig Iron off, but just crashes it down on his own head.
That's right. I'd say that's smarts, but smart ain't really fitting here.
Wild Days, the Zoo Crew begin their attack. "Now's our chance, gang! Quick, while he's knocking himself silly! He wasn't exactly Iron Swine to start with." We are treated to a really nice shot of Alley Tabra trapping Frogzilla in a giant mousetrap as Rubber Duck ties himself around the kaiju, as Fastback super speeds up his back to knock him in the back of the head, and Pig Iron starts throwing chunks of debris at the monster. And while the attack is going on, we are treated to a nice bit where Yankee Poodle and Captain Carrot are working in tandem to keep one building up while they rescue civilians. And I think this is a really nice touch because it is so easy to get lost in the fight in a comic. And I think superheroes taking the time to save civilians in the midst of chaos is very important. And what makes them superheroes, capital S, capital H. Captain Carrot notices Louis Landcrab taking delight in the chaos. The area is clear of all non-super personnel and central cast and innocent bystanders. Now I can turn back to, wait a minute, everyone was either carried away or fled in panic. But this Joker seems to think rage and wreckage is a fun way to kill an afternoon. While Louie tells our leader to get lost, the rest of the zoo crew continue to struggle against Frogzilla as he makes his way towards the Z building. There's no stopping him. Stop him? It's all we can do to slow him down. But we've got to, before he heads straight for the Z building.
Head straight for the Z building? A capital idea. It was uppercase of you to suggest it.
Captain Carrot grabs Louie and carries him up on top of a building with the rest of the zoo crew and forces him to spill the beans. I had it all figured. Once Frogzilla destroys the building on the primo real estate in LA, I'd buy the land up for a song, then rebuild highly insured condos on them, and have Froggy level those too, collect the insurance, and rebuild it and wreck 'em till we're swimming in dough. Then J. Fenimore Frog could buy himself a whole line of lust boats, demote that dodo to a barnacle scraper-in-chief. Fastback speeds off and returns in a heartbeat with Dunbar Dodo. The dodo? That gives me an idea. Catch y'all later. Nanoseconds later, that is. What's the starboard? Steady as she... Hey, what am I doing here? Pig Iron isn't as fast on the draw and doesn't get what Fastback is doing. Luckily, Captain Carrot has it all figured out.
Don't tell me that turtle's lost what little of the brains he had left. Froggy'll moiter that dodo if he sees him.
That's the idea. Fastback's using Captain Dodo as bait to lure him away from the Z building. It's a brilliant plan. And he had it all by himself. Sort of makes a superhero squad leader proud. Sure enough, the plan is working as Fastback and Dunbar are speeding towards an electrical plant, and even a locked gate can't stop them now as Rubber Duck swoops in to make himself a ramp as Frogzilla comes barreling down on them.
Yeah, it's that featherweight fuzzball. Come here, this frog wants a dodo in his throat.
What Earth are we on? I mean, where on Earth are we? Trust me, Captain. Just trust me, 'cause as the frog creeps in on Little Flat Feet, I'm racing us over to the Kong Edison electrical power plant. I'll form a ramp to get you over the gate. After all, what are teammates for? I think this is a real good showcasing of teamwork, and I think does show how far Rubber Duck has come and is not as self-centered as he started out as when this book began. Frogzilla whips his tongue out to try and grab our heroes, but hits a transformer instead. The massive electrical jolt zaps the monster of all his strength, reducing him to a defeated J. Fenimore Frog.
Ugh, next time I want a muscle-bound body, I'm going to Charles Ratless.
Captain Carrot congratulates his teammate as they stand over their defeated foe. Your plan worked, Fastback. How'd you think of it? I just saw it on one of them late-night monster movies. You know, where the big ugly things from space are using Porkio as a floor mat. Hated to do that to a feller amphibian, though. As a kaiju fan, I really kind of do appreciate that. The police arrive, but Dunbar Dodo can't bring himself to press charges against his old neighbor, nor Louis Landcrab. Louis, meanwhile, has a speech balloon that hilariously reads, "If we printed this comment, Sparta, Illinois would be a giant used car lot." Cops still want to make them pay, so Captain Carrot comes up with the idea for the two of them to repair the buildings they destroyed. And our issue ends with our two antagonists with giant tubes of glue and upside-down blueprints trying to fix what they broke. Next time, the Naked Ape. Overall, I'd say this is a really good issue, but don't know if it was worth 2 issues of filler to get to it, however. Hoberg's art is excellent as always, barring Louis' human nose and mustache. And after 6 mini solo stories, it is really nice to have one whole cohesive story again. I might have plotzed if they broke the team down into teams of 2 again. Except for the 2 awful fourth wall breaking jokes, I think the rest of the humor largely worked. I do kind of wish once we got on the cruise ship we had stayed on the cruise ship, largely because it would have been a nice change of scenery and you could have made all sorts of vacation humor. That's not a terrible loss, just a missed opportunity. Next time, our final issue of the ongoing series. And with that, let's get on to our Looney Tunes pairing. One Froggy Evening was originally released December 31st, 1955, all to ring in the new year with baby 1956. Our short was directed by Chuck Jones, story by Michael Maltese, starring an uncredited William Bill Roberts as Michigan J. Frog, music by Milt Franklin, animation by Ken Harris, Abe Levitow, Ben Washam, and Richard Thompson, with layouts by Robert Griberock and backgrounds by Philip DeGard. I always remembered that Frogzilla made at least 2 prominent appearances in this series, so I knew I was going to cover One Froggy Evening for one of them. So, best to do it when he's the sole/primary threat of the issue. I am curious as to how many people know Michigan J. Frog from this cartoon versus being the mascot of the WB network, which I now realize hasn't been a thing for 20 years, so yikes. Our completely silent short, except for the musical numbers, begins in 1955 as a demolition worker finds a box in the cornerstone of an 1892 building he's wrecking. Opening it up, out pops Michigan J. Frog with top hat and cane, beginning to sing Hello My Baby, written by Ida Emerson and Joseph Howard from 1899. The worker, of course, sees dollar signs in his eyes and sneaks away to take the frog to a talent agent. At the agency office, the construction worker is really hyping up his act, but once he takes Michigan out, the frog just sits there like a normal frog and just croaks. The worker repeats the dance to try and keep the agent's interest, even putting the hat back on Michigan and forcing the motionless frog to do the kicking dance again. The agent just side-eyes the camera and has a real Mr. Jackass, I mean Simpson, vibe going before kicking them out of the office. Michigan J. Frog then begins to sing The Michigan Rag, which was written for this short and gave the frog his name. And of course, as soon as the worker rushes back to grab the agent, Michigan just turns back to a normal frog. Now, after being kicked out of the building, Michigan starts singing Come Back Ariane by Charlotte Ailington Bernard from 1866. The demolition worker, while collecting his life savings from underneath his mattress to rent out a theater for himself and the frog to make it on their own, Michigan is singing and dancing I'm Just Wild About Harry by U.B. Blake and Noble Sissel from the musical Shuffle Along from 1921. It's the big evening and Michigan is singing atop a high wire Throw Him Down McCloskey by John W. Kelly from 1890. The worker's enthusiastic for the opening and runs to open up the doors expecting a flood of people, only for nothing. He makes a sign saying free admission. Again, nothing. He tries a sign for free beer. That gets the people in droves, all while Michigan sings the Michigan Rag again off screen. The curtain is closed as Michigan, still on the wire, sings Won't You Come Over to My House by Harry Williams and Egbert Van Alstyne from 1906. Unfortunately, the rope breaks and the demolition worker scrambles to open it up as Michigan leaps to the stage, lofting down by an umbrella. Of course, as soon as the curtain opens and Michigan lands, he's back to a normal frog, causing boos from the crowd as they throw fruits and vegetables down at the worker. The worker is now on a bench freezing in the snowy park as Michigan sings Largo al Factotum, composed by Gioacchino Rossini from The Barber of Seville from 1816. A favorite of Termite Terrace. The scene catches the attention of a cop and the worker points to Michigan J. Frog, disgruntled, but the cop just picks both of them up and hauls them away to a psychopathic hospital, where Michigan Frog sings on the padded cell Please Don't Talk About Me When I'm Gone by Sidney Clare, Sam H. Stept, and B. Palmer from 1930. Freed from the psych ward but penniless, the worker spots a new building being built and throws Michigan J. Frog in his box into the new cornerstone. Time fades to the thankfully still in the future 2056 as the now dilapidated building is being torn down. A new demolition worker garbed in a green jumpsuit and bubble helmet disintegrates the rubble on top of the cornerstone, discovers the box, and once again out pops Michigan J. Frog, booking the short with Hello My Baby as the new guy gets dollar signs in his eyes and sneaks away. The cycle continues. In conclusion, this cartoon is a true classic. Jones and Company do such an amazing job with the visuals that you don't need or miss dialogue. The whole story can be followed. Even if you were to watch this short on mute for some reason, you get all the jokes. And it actually tells a whole compelling story. The animators do an amazing job differentiating between when Michigan J. Frog is on or not. The music is just a blast, and nobody cares if half the songs used are from when Michigan J. Frog was supposedly stuck in the building. It is one of the 4 Looney Tunes shorts that is currently preserved by the National Film Registry, the others being Duck Amuck, which I've already covered, Porky and Wacky Land, which I considered covering, and What's Opera Doc, which I may or may not cover by the end of this series. Steven Spielberg also described this cartoon as the Citizen Kane of the animated short in a 2000 Chuck Jones documentary, and of course, all of the parodies of it. Spaceballs in particular jumps to mind where they meshed it with Alien. So if you have not seen this absolute classic of a short, stop what you're doing right now and go out and watch it. So I got really nothing left to say, but that's all, folks!